The wooden crate arrived at 7:26 a.m., delivered to my office like a polite threat. It was stamped with red ink, wrapped in twine, and labeled in careful block letters, "For Emma Park, with respect." The receptionist wheeled it in on a cart, smiling like she thought it contained pastries. It did not. I knew exactly what it was. You do not get a ceremonial crate from an overseas chairman unless something important is about to happen, or unless something is about to break. Inside the crate was a lacquered box, a folded letter, and a small silver lapel pin shaped like a crane in flight. Elegant, understated. A gift that said, "We see you. We trust you. We are counting on you." I was the Global Relations Director at Meridian Arc Technologies, a San Francisco firm that sold industrial AI systems and tried to pretend it was still a scrappy startup. We were not scrappy. We were expensive, loud, and occasionally brilliant. My job was to make sure our brilliance did not get strangled by cultural ignorance. 2 weeks from now, Meridian Arc planned to sign a partnership with Saffron Gate Consortium, a Singapore-based infrastructure group known for playing the long game and punishing disrespect with silence. The chairman, Mr. Liang, was not the kind of person you offended and then fixed with a calendar invite. He measured trust the way engineers measure load-bearing beams. Quietly. Permanently. The letter in the crate thanked me for guiding the relationship with care. It referenced details no one would know unless they listened. The chairman's favorite tea, his dislike of noisy restaurants, the fact that his wife did not shake hands in formal settings. The crane pin was meant for the signing ceremony. Symbolic. A bridge, not a trophy. I was reading the letter when my calendar reminder popped up. 8 a.m. Meeting with Derek Vance. Conference room 42. Mandatory. Derek was our newly promoted Chief Efficiency Officer, which meant he believed cutting the right people was the same as leading. He had a voice like a podcast host, and the confidence of someone who had never been the one blamed when things went wrong. I placed the crane pin back in the box, closed the lid, and walked to conference room 42. The room was cold enough to preserve seafood. Derek sat at the head of the table with a tablet, a paper folder, and a cup of espresso that looked like it had been ordered for the image rather than the caffeine. He did not stand when I entered. He did not smile. That was confirmation. "Emma," he said, and slid the folder toward me like a dealer pushing chips. "We are making adjustments. Your department does not align with our new strategy." I did not open the folder yet. I looked at his face. Calm. Detached. The kind of expression men practice when they think they are being decisive. "Before I tell you how I turned this meeting into the most expensive 15 minutes of Derek life, do me a favor and tap like and subscribe. It helps the algorithm find other people who enjoy watching arrogance trip over a rule it did not bother to read." Derek cleared his throat. "It is nothing personal. We are focusing on tangible output. Revenue. Product. We cannot justify cultural consulting overhead." "Cultural consulting," I repeated. My job title had been erased into a buzzword. "We have translators," Derek said. "We have AI meeting summaries. We have templates. The deal stands on the tech, Emma, not on etiquette." I finally opened the folder. Severance terms. Effective immediately. Access revoked after exit. Clean break. "You are terminating me 2 weeks before the signing with Saffron Gate," I said evenly. Derek smiled, small and smug. "I will lead the delegation. I read a business etiquette guide. I am sure I can handle dinner seating." I thought of the crate in my office, the crane pin, the letter written with respect. Then I thought of Derek walking into a room of people who value restraint, carrying confidence like a weapon, and expecting applause. "Very well," I said, closing the folder. Derek leaned forward, relieved. "Great. Sign and we can move on." I picked up the pen, and in that moment, I realized Derek had not just fired a person, he had fired the bridge. I signed the severance agreement with the same care I used when approving a contract clause. Slow, clean, no hesitation. Derek watched my pen like he expected drama, like he expected me to argue, or cry, or beg. When I did none of those things, his shoulders softened with the relief of a man who thinks he just won. Smart choice, Derek said, already tapping on his tablet. You will be escorted out for security reasons. Standard practice. Of course, I said, standing smoothly. No need to worry. I am very familiar with standard practice. He smirked. Enjoy the break, Emma. Maybe take a wellness retreat. Realign your priorities. He said it like advice. It was actually an insult dressed in kindness, the corporate equivalent of a pat on the head. I did not respond. I simply walked out. The escort was a young security guard named Nate, who looked apologetic. He kept his eyes forward and carried my cardboard box like it was heavier than it was. Inside were my desk photo, a notebook, the crane pin, and the wooden letter. I left everything else. The contact lists, the relationship history, the bilingual meeting notes, the seating charts, the gift protocols, the cultural risk assessments. 7 years of invisible labor that kept executives from embarrassing themselves in international rooms. A clean break, Derek had said. So I gave him one. When I arrived home, I did not open my laptop immediately. I made tea. Not green tea. Roasted barley tea, because it calmed the mind and reminded me that patience can be sharper than anger. I turned my phone off for 2 hours. Not because I was hiding, but because I wanted the company to experience the silence Derek had purchased. When I turned the phone back on, it lit up like a panic flare. 6 missed calls from legal, 9 from the executive assistant pool, 3 voicemails from a man in finance who had never learned my name until he needed me, dozens of emails forwarded by a junior colleague, Priya, who still had access and still had a conscience. The first email I opened was from Derek himself. Subject: quick question. Body: where is the Saffron Gate briefing document you mentioned last quarter? Also, can you send the dinner protocol info? The team needs it by end of day. I laughed once, quietly, then stopped. Laughter wastes energy. The next email was from the Singapore team. Subject: confirmation of ceremony details. Body: please advise which representative will present the crane symbol gift on behalf of Meridian Arc. Ms. Park usually coordinates this. We have not received confirmation. Then another. Subject: seating arrangement. Clarification. Body: we understand Mr. Liang will attend with his board members. Kindly confirm the correct position of honor relative to the entry doors. We do not wish to create awkwardness. I could have answered. It would have taken minutes. But Derek had fired me specifically because he believed my role was decorative. If I saved him now, I would be proving him right. I would be allowing him to keep my value while removing my pay. So I did not answer. Instead, I opened my personal files. Every international relations lead keeps a personal archive, not out of paranoia, but out of survival. Companies forget. Partners remember. I reviewed the partnership draft that legal had once bragged about, as if contracts write themselves. And there it was. Clause 12C. Key Relationship Steward Requirement. It named me, explicitly, Emma Park. It was not a compliment. It was a condition. It stated that material changes to relationship stewardship required written notice 30 days prior, and failure to maintain continuity allowed Saffron Gate to terminate without penalty. Derek had not cut overhead. He had triggered a trap he did not know existed. I called a retired diplomat named Harold Quinn, a mentor who enjoyed watching arrogant executives meet consequences. "They fired you?" Harold asked, sounding pleased. "Yes," I said. 2 weeks before signing. Harold exhaled slowly. "Then they are about to learn that in Asia, disrespect is not punished with shouting. It is punished with absence." "I am not going to sabotage them," I said. Harold chuckled. "Of course you are not. You will do something far more devastating. You will do nothing. That evening, Priya sent me another message. Derek bought branded hoodies as gifts, she wrote. He says everyone loves hoodies. I stared at the text and pictured the crane pin, the letter, the careful respect in that wooden crate. Then I pictured Derek handing a hoodie to Mr. Liang like he was giving a charity prize. My tea tasted better. I arrived in Singapore 3 days before the Meridian Arc delegation, not because I was invited, but because I was curious. Curiosity is often mistaken for interference. This was observation. I booked my own flight, my own hotel, and registered for the Global Infrastructure Futures Forum under my consulting LLC, which I had formed the same afternoon Derek fired me. Incorporation paperwork takes less time than most people think when motivation is clear. The humidity wrapped around me the moment I stepped outside Changi Airport, heavy and deliberate. Singapore always felt like a city that rewarded order and punished arrogance, a good place to watch consequences unfold. The forum was being held at Marina Bay Sands, all glass and polished stone. Executives from around the world moved through the halls in tailored suits, speaking in lowered voices, exchanging cards with both hands. I had spent years navigating rooms like this. I knew when to speak and when to let silence do the work. On the first afternoon, I spotted Daniel Liang, the son of the Saffron Gate chairman, standing near a scale model of a smart port system. He was listening politely to a loud European consultant explain a concept his company had pioneered a decade earlier. I waited until the consultant finished talking, then approached from the side. "Daniel," I said softly. He turned, eyes sharpening for a fraction of a second before recognition set in. "Emma Park." He bowed his head slightly. "I did not expect to see you here." "There has been a change," I said. "I am no longer with Meridian Arc." The temperature between us shifted. Not dramatically, just enough to notice. "That is concerning," Daniel said carefully. "My father believed you would be present at the signing." I smiled, neutral and professional. "I am here on my own behalf. I did not wish to intrude on your business." Daniel studied my face. "In our culture, continuity matters. Sudden absence is rarely accidental." Before I could reply, I heard a voice echoing across the hall. "There they are." Derek Vance strode into the forum like he was entering a networking mixer, not a negotiation built on decades of trust. He wore an open collar, no tie, and sunglasses perched on his head indoors. Two junior associates trailed behind him carrying tote bags with the Meridian Arc logo printed aggressively large. Daniel followed my gaze. His expression tightened. "Is that your former colleague?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "He is leading the delegation." Derek spotted me. His smile flickered, then widened. "Emma," he called out, waving. "Fancy seeing you here." "Great timing." He approached Daniel without waiting for introduction and stuck out his hand. "Derek Vance, Meridian Arc. You must be Daniel. Big day tomorrow." Daniel looked at the hand, then shook it briefly, withdrawing just as quickly. "You appear confident," Daniel said. Derek laughed. "Hey, confidence is key. We are bringing innovation, speed, and a fresh approach. None of that old red tape." "Red tape," Daniel repeated. "Yeah," Derek said. "You know, overcomplication. We streamlined a lot internally, trimmed some roles that were slowing things down." Daniel glanced at me. I said nothing. "We brought gifts," Derek added, gesturing to the tote bags. "Hoodies, limited run, super soft. The team loved them." Daniel inclined his head. "That is very modern." Derek grinned, mistaking politeness for approval. "Exactly." As Derek walked away to greet someone else loudly, Daniel leaned closer to me. "My father values humility over speed," he said quietly. "He also values loyalty." "I understand," I replied. Daniel nodded once. "Tomorrow will be interesting." That evening, I received a message from Priya. They still cannot find the seating protocol, she wrote. Derek says to seat Mr. Liang at the head and fill in the rest. I imagined the boardroom, the door placement, the hierarchy signals embedded in furniture placement. They were walking into a room blindfolded. I slept well that night. The signing ceremony was scheduled for 9 in the morning, a time chosen for clarity and restraint. Sunlight poured into the boardroom through floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the harbor, turning the water into polished steel. The table was long, the chairs arranged with deliberate geometry. At one place setting near the center sat a name card printed in careful serif type. Relationship Steward. The chair remained empty. I watched from the adjacent observation gallery, separated by one-way glass and silence. This room existed so translators and junior counsel could observe without cluttering the proceedings. I stood alone, hands folded, breathing slow. I was not hiding. I was witnessing. On the Saffron Gate side, the board entered together and took their seats without speaking. Chairman Liang moved last. Age had curved his spine, but not his authority. He sat, placed his hands on the table, and looked at the empty chair for a long moment. No one rushed him. The Meridian Arc delegation arrived late. Derek entered first, energetic and loud, carrying a leather folder and a grin he believed signaled momentum. Two associates followed, whispering urgently. Derek took in the room, then frowned at the empty chair. "We do not need the extra seat," he said brightly, reaching for the backrest. The sound that followed was small but sharp. A collective intake of breath from the Saffron Gate board. "Please do not move the chair," Daniel Liang said, his voice calm and final. Derek froze, hand hovering in midair. "Right. Symbolic. Got it." He laughed and took his seat. He opened his folder, uncapped his pen, and glanced at his watch. "Great," he said. "Let us get started." No one on the other side opened their folders. Derek cleared his throat. "Is there a delay?" Chairman Liang spoke without raising his voice. "Where is Emma Park?" Derek smiled, practiced and dismissive. "Emma is no longer with the company. We streamlined the team. But I have full authority to sign." "Authority is not the question," the chairman replied. "Continuity is." Derek waved a hand. "We have translators. We have documentation. The deal stands on the technology." Chairman Liang looked at Daniel. Daniel nodded and slid a single page across the table. "Clause 12C," Daniel said. "Key Relationship Steward Requirement. It names Emma Park. It requires her presence or 30-day notice of change." Derek blinked. "Legal handles clauses. I am sure there was an email." "There was not," Daniel replied. Silence settled into the room, heavy and unyielding. Chairman Liang stood. The scrape of his chair against the floor sounded louder than it should have. He did not look at Derek. "Trust is not transferable," he said. "It is maintained." He turned toward the empty chair and bowed. Deep, unhurried, respectful. Then he turned away. "This meeting is concluded," Daniel said. Derek stood abruptly. "Wait. This is a misunderstanding. We can fix this. We can rehire her. Name your conditions." Chairman Liang paused at the door. "You misunderstand again," he said. "The condition was respect. You dismissed it." The door closed. From the gallery I exhaled. Derek exploded. He shouted. He threw his folder. Papers scattered across the table like startled birds. One associate stared at the floor. The other typed furiously. "Stock is dropping," one whispered. Derek kicked the empty chair. It toppled with a hollow thud. "Useless soft skills," he shouted. I turned away from the glass and walked toward the exit. The ceremony had ended exactly as it needed to. The signing ceremony was scheduled for 9 in the morning, a time chosen for clarity and restraint. Sunlight poured into the boardroom through floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the harbor, turning the water into polished steel. The table was long, the chairs arranged with deliberate geometry. At one place setting near the center sat a name card printed in careful serif type. Relationship Steward. The chair remained empty. I watched from the adjacent observation gallery, separated by one-way glass and silence. This room existed so translators and junior counsel could observe without cluttering the proceedings. I stood alone, hands folded, breathing slow. I was not hiding. I was witnessing. On the Saffron Gate side, the board entered together and took their seats without speaking. Chairman Liang moved last. Age had curved his spine, but not his authority. He sat, placed his hands on the table, and looked at the empty chair for a long moment. No one rushed him. The Meridian Arc delegation arrived late. Derek entered first, energetic and loud, carrying a leather folder and a grin he believed signaled momentum. Two associates followed, whispering urgently. Derek took in the room, then frowned at the empty chair. "We do not need the extra seat," he said brightly, reaching for the backrest. The sound that followed was small but sharp, a collective intake of breath from the Saffron Gate board. "Please do not move the chair," Daniel Liang said, his voice calm and final. Derek froze, hand hovering in midair. "Right. Symbolic. Got it." He laughed and took his seat. He opened his folder, uncapped his pen, and glanced at his watch. "Great," he said. "Let us get started." No one on the other side opened their folders. Derek cleared his throat. "Is there a delay?" Chairman Liang spoke without raising his voice. "Where is Emma Park?" Derek smiled, practiced and dismissive. "Emma is no longer with the company. We streamlined the team. But I have full authority to sign." "Authority is not the question," the chairman replied. "Continuity is." Derek waved a hand. "We have translators. We have documentation. The deal stands on the technology." Chairman Liang looked at Daniel. Daniel nodded and slid a single page across the table. "Clause 12C," Daniel said. "Key relationship. Steward requirement. It names Emma Park. It requires her presence or 30-day notice of change." Derek blinked. "Legal handles clauses. I am sure there was an email." "There was not," Daniel replied. Silence settled into the room, heavy and unyielding. Chairman Liang stood. The scrape of his chair against the floor sounded louder than it should have. He did not look at Derek. "Trust is not transferable," he said. "It is maintained." He turned toward the empty chair and bowed. Deep, unhurried, respectful. Then he turned away. "This meeting is concluded," Daniel said. Derek stood abruptly. "Wait. This is a misunderstanding. We can fix this. We can rehire her. Name your conditions." Chairman Liang paused at the door. "You misunderstand again," he said. "The condition was respect. You dismissed it." The door closed. From the gallery I exhaled. Derek exploded. He shouted. He threw his folder. Papers scattered across the table like startled birds. One associate stared at the floor. The other typed furiously. "Stock is dropping," one whispered. Derek kicked the empty chair. It toppled with a hollow thud. "Useless soft skills," he shouted. I turned away from the glass and walked toward the exit. The ceremony had ended exactly as it needed to. The market reacted before Derek reached the elevator. By the time he slammed his way out of the boardroom, phones were already buzzing across 3 continents. Rumors move faster than press releases, and silence from Saffron Gate spoke louder than any statement Meridian Arc could draft. Traders do not wait for explanations. They smell uncertainty and run. From the lobby cafe across the street, I watched executives hurry past glass walls, faces tight, voices sharp. Someone had already leaked that the ceremony ended early. Another leak followed minutes later. Partnership suspended pending review. Analysts began using phrases like cultural breakdown and leadership risk. Words Derek had dismissed as decorative were now chewing through shareholder confidence. My phone vibrated. A number I recognized but had not saved. "Emma," the CEO said when I answered. His voice sounded smaller than I remembered. "We need to talk." "There was a misunderstanding," he continued quickly. "Derek acted without full context. He is being placed on administrative leave effective immediately. We value what you built. Come back. We can discuss title, equity, whatever it takes." I looked out at the harbor, ships moving slowly, deliberately, logistics obeying rules older than ambition. "You did not misunderstand," I said. "You deprioritized something you did not understand." "We can fix it," he insisted. "Mr. Liang will take your call." "No, he will not," I replied. "He already made his decision. You are the only one he trusts." That was true. It was also no longer my responsibility. "I am no longer available," I said. "I have accepted another role." There was a pause. Then disbelief. "With whom?" "Read the announcement tomorrow," I said. I ended the call. That afternoon, I met Daniel Liang for tea in a private garden behind the conference center. It was quiet, bamboo leaves rustling softly in the breeze. "My father asked me to extend an offer," Daniel said, sliding a card toward me with both hands. "Strategic Director of Global Partnerships, Saffron Gate Holdings. He trusts you." The card was simple. No logo, no embellishment. "Power does not advertise." I accepted. The press release hit the next morning. Meridian Arc stock dropped 11% in early trading. The board announced a leadership review. Derek issued a statement about personal growth and moving on. No one shared it. A week later, a package arrived at my hotel. Inside was the crane pin, the same one I had left behind. No note. Just the pin, polished, returned with intention. 6 months later, I sat in my new office overlooking the Singapore River. The walls were glass, but the noise stayed outside. The partnership between Saffron Gate and my new firm was finalized quietly, respectfully. No hoodies, no slogans, just signatures and trust. Sometimes late in the evening, I think about the empty chair. Derek believed removing it would simplify the room. He never understood that the chair was never about the person who sat there. It was about what the space represented: continuity, respect, memory. My revenge was not loud, it was not cruel, it was precise. I did not sabotage a deal. I simply allowed people to experience the full cost of dismissing what they could not measure. And in the end, the silence did all the work for me.